What's going on, internet? Shiro here, and today we're going to be doing a King's Raid video on the two new heroes just added, Oddy and Yanne. This is not going to be a review video, but more so an overview on how the heroes function, their viability, where they're going to be placed in team comps, and sort of my first impressions on them. Before we dive into the two new heroes, I am just going to say that, in my opinion, Vespa's doing a fairly good job in creating new heroes and making them as unique as possible. You know, they have their own niches, they have their own personalities and characteristics, and you know, without getting actual story content for these heroes, you know who they are, and we've built sort of an imagination of those units. So let's get right into Oddy. Oddy is going to be the mechanic that we're going to be looking into first, and Vespa, I think ever since Annette has been released, they're taking the mechanic class from a more DPS standpoint to more so of a sort of a bard, if you will. A support class that's going to be buffing your units, healing them, dispelling them, and such. DPS being sort of a secondary role. But let's get into his skill sets. Before we go into the actual skill overlook, we're going to go with his passive, his fourth skill, and that is Clock Magic. So after he uses any of these skills, he's going to gain a buff for 2 auto attacks. Each auto attack is going to deal an extra X amount of magic damage with a 30% chance to petrify that enemy. So let's hop into Oddy's actual skill set here, or actives that is. So his first active is a straight line shot that's going to do magic damage and have a chance at petrifying the enemy. Fairly short cooldown at 9 seconds and really cheap at 2 mana. So nothing too game breaking there. Second is going to be his, what I assume is going to be his big DPS move. It's on an 18-second cooldown with a 3 mana cost. It's going to attack 6 random enemies, dealing a buttload of magic damage, and afterwards there's a 50% chance that this skill is going to go off cooldown again and become free, no mana cost at all. So let's see if we can proc the free one here. And yes, we did, right there. I've not seen this proc off another one as far as, oh, see that? Power recording, you say something, it's going to make you look stupid. So it looks like the free cast there can't proc for another free cast. Here comes another one. I was doing a lot of testing earlier and it was not happening. I didn't think it was possible, but it's just going to keep going. Okay. I might edit more of this out if it just keeps going. We're just going to see. Is it just going to keep going?
3 hours later.
That has to be a bug there. No, there we go. What the? Whew. Alrighty. Oddy's third skill here is going to be Time Distortion. So 45-second cooldown with a hefty 5 mana cost. Really heavy costing skill, but this skill is what defines who Oddy is. This is what Oddy is. This is, you know, someone brings an Oddy to your team, you're gonna be like, oh, Time Distortion. So what Time Distortion does is going to do magic damage, not important at all, and then afterwards it's going to give your entire team 250 attack speed for 15 seconds, and after the animation ends, he's going to be reducing everybody's cooldowns that are on cooldown by 50%. So we'll do an example here with his first skill to his third skill. So use first skill, gonna go on a 9-second cooldown, cast third skill, and not until after the animation ends, boom, 2 seconds there. So really powerful skill if you combo it with, like, say Arc or Baldin, 2 units that have really long cooldowns as well, 40-second cooldowns after you use this skill, down to 20 or below, right? And as far as if he's going to be fitting in raid teams, and that's where you're going to be using Oddy, I think there's a lot of potential there, due to the fact that, you know, there are going to be 7 other units in those raid teams. But that's also a downside in my opinion. There's also 7 other units in that raid team that you have to coordinate with. You know, you're going to be like, hey guys, Time Distortion's up, use your big cooldowns now and DPS the boss or give us invincibility. At the same time, you gotta have to think, do I need to use this skill for the sake of using it to get it a lower cooldown, right? And that sort of coordination is hard to pull off if you're doing pugs or if you're not in voice chat. You know, the biggest thing, if you're not in voice chat, it's going to be very hard to get that point across of, hey, Oddy, third skill up, go big. But a lot of potential. So last, we're going to cover his transcending skills and sort of see which ones are going to be viable. So with T3, it's going to be covering second skill and fourth skill. Second skill for light and dark, damage increased by 40%, very simple. Dark is going to be while on cooldown, auto attacks will reduce the cooldown of time fragments, second skill, by 1 second. It's going to be very dependent on if you have the unique weapon or not, on what you're going to pick here. Generally, what I think is going to be the go-to choice is Dark, just because I like that consistency in gameplay rather than the RNG portion. Earlier in the video, you saw how insanely it was proccing, but before this video, it didn't happen like that. I would only get 1 proc, and that was it. So having that consistency of using the skill over and over will be really nice. At the same time, if you don't have Oddy's unique weapon, you might not have the mana to sort of be able to keep up with that sort of gameplay. And Clock Magic here, the 4th skill, Light, is going to be, instead of 2 stacks, you'll get 3 stacks. And for Dark, upon activation of the 4th skill, you'll gain an extra 3% mana. Not really that good for both of them. I think, you know, Time Fragments is going to be the go-to for T3. Next is going to be T4, 1st skill and 3rd skill. So with the 1st skill, it's going to be Light, again, damage increased by 40%. Dark, cooldown reduced by 1.5 seconds. In my opinion, with the already short cooldown we have on skill 1, 1.5 seconds shouldn't make a big deal at all. Not to mention, if you do get 2nd skill for Time Fragments, T3, Dark, you're going to be strapped on mana a lot of the times. So if you're going to go with T4 1st skill, go with Light. And then for 3rd skill for T4, it is mana reduced by 1, so from 5 to 4. And honestly, I don't like saying useless, but it's not a very good choice to go for this. The skill's already on a 45-second cooldown. You're going to be able to gain that 5 mana within that 45-second portion during raids and line that up correctly to the point where that 1 less mana isn't going to be really making that difference. And then Dark portion, while in use, gain immunity to CC. And I think for T4, this is going to be the go-to choice, only because if we go back to Oddy here, it's a fairly long cast, and during black raids, if you're not counting in your head on when the last Thunderbolt came down, your Oddy has a chance of getting stunned while you're doing that cast, and then boom, 45-second cooldown wasted. And that's pretty heartbreaking at times, right? So that's why I think for T4, 3rd skill Dark is going to be the go-to. T5, Light, everybody knows Light here. And so for the Dark portion, I think there's going to be a lot of testing to see how viable this will be. Not to mention, team comps are a very big factor in if this is going to be good or not. So every 10 seconds, any skills on cooldown for 4 random allies have it reduced by another 1 second. In a raid, if you're in a full party raid, it's going to be 7 other people sort of fighting for this random proc every 10 seconds. On paper, very bad. In practical, like actually using it, you never know, it might be really good. But I think for T5, Light is sort of the safe way to go about it. So overall, I think Oddy is a very unique character. He's going to be filling that role of Bard really well, with a potential of being quite the bursty unit for AoE for Black Dragons. Yanne is the one that's really caught my eye because she's she is created as a Dragon Slayer, as her name, oh, it actually says Dragon Slayer, didn't see that, as her name implements, right? All her passives, all her skills actually have, you know, if you're fighting a dragon, you're going to do X amount of damage more. And even her unique weapon has that sort of tag to it. So we're going to do her 4th skill before we actually go to the skill preview. And its 4th skill is Dragon Slayer. Attack boosted by X amount, in this case 3700. Max HP is increased by 30%, as well as 50% extra damage if you're fighting a dragon. Insane passive. Honestly, that it made me smile when I saw that, just because, again, I love doing raids, and that's what I mainly do. And that has so much potential in just one skill for just pure DPS. Focus shot functions the same way Rodina's 1st skill works. It's going to be a long cast time charge, and after that charge, shoot a straight line shot that deals physical damage to anybody it pierces. Now, if the enemy is a dragon, there's going to be a 3-second stun portion added to the damage. Now, that 3-second stun is also amplified by the cast time. So what do I mean by that? The longer you cast this skill, the more potent that stun's going to be. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of the CC bar is actually going to be depleted during Dragon Raids from her first skill. Also to note, it's a 2 mana cost skill at a 9-second cooldown. Now that 9 seconds happens the moment you press first skill here, and after the cast finishes, it's technically on a 6-second internal cooldown. Now her second skill is Wipeout. It's a 3 mana cost skill at 10-second cooldown. It's a AoE skill. She's going to jump up in the air, little cast time, deal physical damage to an enemy and everybody around that enemy. Now, if you're hitting a dragon, it's also going to deal another X amount of physical damage, but that physical damage also ignores the defense of the enemy. Yanne's third skill here is what defines her as a Dragon Slayer, and sort of what makes her very viable in Dragon Raids. So her third skill is called No Holding Back, 4 mana cost, 25-second cooldown. The first portion of this skill is what makes it really good. Remove all harmful effects on self and for 30 seconds. So unless I am reading that wrong or Vespa sort of misworded it, what I'm getting at is she's basically debuff immune for 30 seconds, which is absolutely huge for Dragon Raids. In the Dragon Raid, the Black Dragon applies a debuff on your units, which increases the damage you take, as well as decreases your attack power. And the farther you are in the backline, the more potent this debuff is. And with this skill, she just basically becomes, if you're really good at managing mana, 100% immune to it. Now, the rest of the skill is increased attack power by X amount, as well as defense penetration by 500. As well as for the duration, your auto attacks will consume 3% mana, but in exchange, it'll do sort of a piercing effect like Nyx's unique weapon, as well as dealing an extra amount of physical damage that ignores defense to dragon. Word that wrong. Ignores defense when you're fighting a dragon. Sorry. But that first portion of the skill is really what makes her super, super good. And I really hope that it functions the same way I'm thinking of, or else, you know, her viability might sort of dip down because of that. Last, we'll be covering Yanne's transcendent skills, starting with T3. Wipeout, Light and Dark, is when there is only one enemy, damage is boosted by 100%. Enemies hit are stunned for 2 seconds for the dark portion. And for the fourth skill, Light, all allies take 7% reduced damage from dragons, or Dark, deal 15% more damage to dragons. Now, I think the clear winner here will be generally Dark for Dragon Slayer, the fourth skill. It's going to be the most consistent one at a 15% increased damage at all times. So, in my opinion, T3 Dragon Slayer Dark is the go-to. Now, for T4, it's going to cover first skill and third skill. Focus Shot, Light is damage is increased by 40%, or Dark, target takes 25% additional physical damage for 10 seconds. For the third skill, No Holding Back, Light is attack speed is boosted by 250 for duration, or Dark, for the duration, all damage taken is reduced by 25%. So this one's going to be sort of a toss-up between Focus Shot Light or No Holding Back Light. Depending if you do not have the unique weapon, I think No Holding Back Light is going to be a better choice just for a mana gain. And if you have a unique weapon, Focus Shot, damage increased by 40% will be the go-to. And for T5, Light and Dark. So Light, HP, attack, and defense increased by 10%, / crit damage increased by 20%, and Dark, auto attacks ignore enemy block effects. So depending on the content you are doing, I think Light will generally be the go-to choice, unless you're doing sort of story content that has units blocking a lot of your attacks. But generally, I think you'll be going with Light. At the same time, I don't think you'll be rushing Yanne to T5, since I think up to T4 is where she'll hit her prime, and T5 will be sort of just an added bonus. Now, Yanne, I think overall is a really, really cool unit. She's pure DPS with utility for herself. She's sort of that selfish kind of barbarian type character. And like I said, I think I'm going to grab her on my second count, and I can't wait to try her. Overall, I think Oddy and Yanne are quite the unique additions to the King's Raid roster, and I'm excited to see how they're going to fit in team comps. Mainly Oddy, just because he's borderline not that useful. If his second skill doesn't do as much damage as I think it's going to do, then he's only really there for his third skill, and even at that, it requires quite a bit of coordination to really take advantage of. Yanne, on the other hand, she has the toolkits of being an insane DPS in Dragon Raids, so she might even replace those Aisha and Lunas. Only time will tell though, but I'm really excited to try her out. Hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully it was somewhat informative. Sorry if I was a little awkward or stuttering at times. This is my first upload, and I really appreciate it if you guys stuck through all the way. So have a good one, guys. Enjoy.